Hello and welcome to On to the Next Project. I'm Adam Krutinger.
And I'm Brian Miller.
And on this show, Brian and I have a weekly free-form conversation about building a living and a life with your passion.
And this week's topic is, should I continue growing the quarantine beard or should I shave it off? That
I
is not
actually
the
thought,
topic, but I need your opinion.
I actually decided yesterday that I was going to grow up my beard for the quarantine, and then this morning I shaved it off. I was like, I can't do that. No.
All
But
right.
it'll be
Do you want to start the intro over or should I just say the topic now?
oh my gosh. I don't
All
even
right. Today's topic is niche down or spread out.
Yes. Now, I think that's a really good topic because it's one thing that I think people always decide. Well, because here's the thing. Actually, a lot of people that want to become YouTubers actually contact me locally and ask me for that kind of advice, like what they should do. I don't know why they do because I'm not like that successful. Like I'm happy with what I've done, but it's by no means like overly impressive compared to real channels. But they always ask me like, well, what should I do? Which is kind of a different question, but still kind of related. What do you think?
Well, on a total tangent, just on what you had just said, for what it's worth, what do you have? 55,000 subscribers, right? I
I'm a
mean,
52. Yeah.
52,000 subscribers. So for what it's worth, almost everybody, you're probably in like the 90th percentile of YouTubers, right? Like you probably have more subscribers than 90% of everybody who's ever started a YouTube channel. So you do have let's not undermine, I have 15,000. If you're not a real channel, what am I? Right.
No, I guess what I mean when I say that, I mean people think that this is my job. Like,
Sure.
that's kind of what I mean. Yeah.
But let's use that to actually roll into the real, topic of the day, niche down or spread out. So I think I would argue that in your life overall, you have spread out. You have not niched down. You do so many things in so many different areas to your benefit. But the success of your YouTube channel is mostly because you niched down just on this channel. You do really one thing and you do it really well, and you became known for that one thing here on this channel. So I think that's an interesting place to start, is that your overall life and career success at large is, I think, because you have so many different talents that you've nurtured over the years. But on any one particular medium, I think niche down might be the way to go. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Because well, I mean, to tie it back to kind of what I was saying too. Like for me, I didn't niche down because I was trying to niche down to grow. That's not why I did it. I just did it because like as you were saying and then alluding to, is that I've had many different interests and hobbies over my lifetime, from magician to this to that to art and painting and this other, and it's kind of brought me to this art form where I feel like I can best express myself. And I think maybe it's hard to say whether it's more successful because of being so niche in the puppetry, or me doing something that truly makes me happy, you know
Yeah. Okay. So one of my favorite books I've read in the last couple of years, I mostly read nonfiction, which was Range. It just came out last year, probably about a year old. Range by David Epstein, and Range is all about why generalists thrive in a specialized world. And this book is phenomenal, and it's real research and it's real science and it's real studies. It's not just like pop psychology. And basically, he was looking at in this book, just decades of research about all kinds of different areas, about whether people who niche down and specialize, or people who kind of generally accumulate a broad range of talents and interests, are more successful in the long term, right? Over the long term. And what they've found by and large is that the cases that we know about, the really famous ones, are always the ones where somebody niched down, right? So the ones we all know about are the Tiger Woods stories, right? Where at 1 years old he was golfing, at 2 years old he was beating kids who were 10, and right, he's only done golf his entire life. We hear about Yo-Yo Ma, right, who's just done nothing but play that one instrument his entire life. But those are the stories that those stories make better stories, right? So we all tell them. But by and large, the most successful people across every industry are people who have a wide range of talents spanning many different fields. And it's because of their ability to take perspectives from all kinds of different sources that they can solve creative problems. Where if you only ever do one thing, you only know how to solve problems in a very specific area. And so I wonder then if it's because you've dabbled in so many different areas, that's what led you to eventually find the one thing that you were able to super niche down on.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that, and one thing that, you'll empathize with is, the comments that we see in some of this podcast Facebook group all the time. "I wanna start a podcast, but what should it be about?" It's if you're asking that, generally, you might maybe shouldn't start a podcast, but, one thing I do tell people 'cause to be honest, in a Facebook group, I might say that too, 'cause to put that into the public like that is questionable, I think. But when people do ask me things like that, well, what should I do? I was like, I say play. Here's what I did. My one buddy wants to start something. I said, make one piece of content a week. Do everything you like. He likes baseball. He likes doing educational stuff. He likes doing a little bit of everything. I said, do it one thing a week for a year. And then the great thing about YouTube is it can curate itself for you. You know, see what people related to the most. And now, of course, take into account that one has been sitting online for a year and one was posted like 2 weeks ago. Take those kind of numbers into account too. But just like, yeah, again, like your audience will also kind of curate it for you. But then again, also, if you decide to lean into something that does well, I'd say it's most important to make sure that is something that you really, really wanna continue doing as well.
All right. So just to clarify something you had just said a minute ago, which is something that you and I joke about all the time, which is you and I are both involved in a lot of different internet forums for some of the same ones for podcasting and things like that. But also, you're in puppetry forums and art forums. I'm in magic ones and speakers forums online. And we both see the same kind of question come up all the time in these forums, which is take podcasting. I want to start a podcast. What should my podcast be about?
Yeah,
Which it just seems like such a silly question to us because first, you're asking strangers on the internet. I don't know you. We don't know you. We don't know what you like, what you're interested in. And by and large, if you want to start, most people want to start a podcast because they have something to say that they just want to get out to the world, or they start a blog because they have something to say. And if what you're saying is, I want to start a podcast, but I have no idea what I would podcast about, as far as I'm concerned, what you're really saying is, I like people with microphones, and I'd like to be one of those people with microphones, right? You're saying, I'd
yeah,
like to own a microphone like the people I see on the internet owning
yeah,
microphones,
yeah,
which is cool. But to your second point, if you get inspired by somebody else's art and you don't know what you would talk about, that's okay. But don't ask strangers for what you should talk about. Start a podcast, start a blog, start a YouTube channel, and just write or talk about whatever you're interested in right now, today. And you can change it every day and you can change it once a week because when you first start, no one's listening, no one's watching. And that's a gift. It's a gift to have no one paying attention.
yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's like, there's saying that everyone's an expert in something, and just find out what that thing is. And again, a big thing that I'm a stickler for is making sure that it's something you actually do enjoy as well talking about too. Because other than that, it really just becomes work and then you fall out of love with it. And especially if it takes so long to grow anyway, you're just going to become frustrated with the medium, which is what I feel like a lot of people do is they blame it on the medium. Well, podcasting doesn't work. It's like, no, it definitely works. It definitely works. And again, well, that's another thing. Maybe a topic for another day is about how so many people are just obsessed with instant gratification. And like you said, that 52,000 followers that I have on the subscribers I have now, that was a very slow grow that I had. It wasn't like an overnight thing by any stretch of the imagination. Same thing for your channel as well.
Oh yeah, gosh, the first year of my YouTube channel, I don't think I got more than 10 or 15 views per video for the first year. I mean, a year before I started seeing 30 views per video, 40 views, let alone, up to the point where I was vlogging, where I was doing it really consistently. It's a little different now because I stopped doing that kind of work and I shifted my channel. But yeah, at some point I was having 5, 6, 800 views consistently, but it took years of consistency. I want to go back to something that you said about making sure that whatever you're talking about or making videos about or writing about is something that you actually enjoy. So the most common mistake is people will look up what are the most popular podcast topics? What are people listening to podcasts about? It's like, first of all, there's so much wrong with that way of thinking. First of all, almost nobody is going to have a massive amount of success making a podcast. Almost nobody is going to have a huge YouTube channel. It seems like everybody does because you only see the ones that are, right?
Yeah,
You only see this really big successful one. So it seems like everybody does. But what are there, 38, 48 million YouTube channels? And you've watched what, 50 of them, right? You've seen the 50 that have the huge numbers. Okay. So you're not going to be so assume you're not going to be successful. If you knew you were not going to be successful and you were only ever going to have a small audience, would you really want to spend your time talking about something that you don't really enjoy that much? That's
yeah,
lunacy. But also, the thinking doesn't even make sense. Why would you choose the most popular topics to talk about? That's what everyone's already talking about.
yeah.
It's flooded. The market's flooded. But if you talk about the niche world of puppet building, you have a chance to reach people because there's
Yeah.
people who are underserved by everybody else.
Yeah, it reminds me of the other thing people say too is like, be yourself because everyone else is taken.
Yeah.
You are an expert at being yourself. So there's no point to parroting what other people are doing really anyway, or leaning into trends too much. Sometimes that can be fun, or you can have reason to do that. But I wouldn't make that the point of what you're trying to do.
Oh, only lean into a trend if it fits within the context of what you're already doing. Like there a couple years ago, there was some influencer that asked I forget what her name was, but which just goes to show how fleeting this was. She was a big deal, like in the news for a week. Some influencer asked a hotel in Europe if they would give her a couple nights for free because she's an influencer, and
Yeah,
it blew up. It backfired, and the hotel owner was kind of a jerk, but he got a lot of free press because he was very smart. He was a jerk in a very smart way that got his hotel a lot of free press, and he made her look like an idiot. But I have a story. I have lots of stories of uh, basically doing an exchange for value. With organizations that have given me their stuff for free and I've promoted them. And there's a right and a wrong way to do that. And so I made a video in that moment about telling my story of how I've done that successfully and how I think what she did right, what she could have done better, what she did wrong, and my analysis of that situation. It was trendy, right? That video was what got that one video I made was really popular for 2 weeks and no one's ever watched it again.
yeah,
It was but it was worth doing for me because it fit within what I was already talking about and the kind of content that my audience expected from me. But if you only ever do that stuff, you're on a hamster wheel because every week you have to be on a totally new topic.
yeah. No, and that's not fun at all. Too. Another thing I want to do is try to connect two of the points that I was making. Let's see if I can remember. Is like the doing what you want, and then also the fact that it's going to be a slow grow. Because a couple of times, a situation I've had with some local people that have come to me. These are people that are, I'm 33, and they were like 55 or a little bit older than that, and they're like, I really want to start a YouTube thing. I want to start creating a business and some money for it. And I was like, okay, here's exactly how I did it. I found something I loved. Do you know what you love? They're like, yes, I know it. Okay, good. And you got to post something once a week forever. Okay. And then it'll be a slow grow. And then you eventually you'll have a following. They're like, oh, but Adam, I'm 55. I don't have a lot of time. I gotta do this quick. And then if you don't have a lot of time, then don't do it. Because it's just gonna be a waste of time. And it's what he did. He did it for 3 months, and then he's like, oh, I wasn't getting a lot of views, so I stopped. I was like, you're not going to in 3 months. You're not going to in a year. It took me about 3 years to be able to that's after 3 years, I had maybe, like, 5,000 or something, and that's a far cry from 50,000 where I am now, which who knows where I'll be. I bet you in the next 2 years, I'll go back down to 15 or something. Watch, right? With my life. But, like, you have to wanna do it, and that's what it told me, that this person didn't wanna do it. They just wanted the glory, the gratification. They
Yeah.
wanted to have something successful, but they didn't wanna do it.
Yeah, they wanna be a rock star playing to 20,000 20,000 person seat arenas without putting in the 20 years of, eating, barely being able to afford to feed themselves and living out of their car and, living in, motels with rats running around and, like all those famous bands, all those famous people you've heard of they put in the work. It's like that old, it takes 10 years to become an overnight success,
No, I was
right?
just gonna
Like,
say that, yep.
and actually, which reminds me of something, a great quote from, and you and I are both a big fan of Jim Carrey,
Oh, yeah. Oh, huge, huge,
and
huge fan.
right, right. I mean, like for me, it's like if you ask me like two influences in my career, it's like Steve Martin and Jim Carrey. Like all my life, those are my two. I just watched The Mask again the other night just for
Oh, did
fun.
you?
I'm at
I
that point
can't
in
plug it, but,
quarantine.
his show right now, Kidding, is magical.
I've seen the first season.
Remarkable.
I gotta keep going. Yeah, incredible. So remember his commencement speech he gave a few years ago that was all over the internet for a while.
Yeah.
And one of the things he said in it is you can fail at something you don't love, right? So you may as well try to do something you actually
Ah,
enjoy.
yes, I forgot about that quote. That's great. You know what? I think without even remembering that quote, and I think I discovered this before I saw that, but I think that's what I unconsciously live by, but was never really able to put it into words. Because I think I don't waste my time with things that I don't love. I think
Yeah,
I
no,
don't.
so I think it's interesting because I think we set out, we do this a lot. We set out to talk about kind of should you niche down or should you
Oh, gee.
generalize? I don't know if we've actually addressed that really since the first couple minutes, most of which was spent on my beard. So the question is, let's bring it back to that. Um, we're talking a little bit more about your passion and how long it's going to take, persistence, some other topics that we've dealt with. But the question is, okay, let's say someone wants, they believe us, right? They're going to start their YouTube channel, their podcast, their blog, their art, their whatever, and they believe us and they're only going to do something that they love and they're going to ignore the numbers and all the things we're talking about. The question is, should they laser focus on just one tiny thing and just do that and do that over and over and over and over again? Or should they dabble in a little bit of this and a little bit of that over there, get, good enough at a bunch of things and never actually master anything, right? There's that jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
And when you were on my podcast in the first season, one of the things I said in the intro to that episode was for me, are one of the very few people I've ever known who's been a jack of all trades and a master of most. Like you've avoided, and I use master obviously loosely, but you know what I mean. You've avoided that like master of none thing. So I wonder if someone's going to try to be successful doing something they love, do they have to hyper focus on one topic or play around with lots of things they like?
Yeah, again, and this is the hard thing is that there's kind of two answers to that. Is like if it's going to be a formal business, yes, niche down. And you know what? I'm going to change what I just said. Yes, niche down completely. Because here's what happens when you niche down all the way down to bare bones of something, you can grab just that audience, and it's hard. Like we've just been establishing for the last 20 minutes, it's hard to grow an audience. If you're extremely niche, you can grab that little audience. And once you have that audience, then you can become spreading out more into other things. In a way, that's one thing that I do want to do over time with my channel. I am a puppeteer, puppet builder. That was my channel. And I slowly want to start growing it into just like a maker channel in general. And that's gonna be, I mean, I've mentioned this before publicly to people too, and I think it's a very slow transition. And puppetry will probably always be like the main main aspect of my maker. It's going to be my main draw of the value I can bring as a maker. But I just love making all kind of things, and I don't want to have to just make puppets publicly. So yeah, but again, since I for lack of a better word, I've already got that all the puppeteers. There's 52,000 people following me. That's probably all the puppeteers. Okay.
In the
Yeah,
world that there's
yeah.
ever
I'm
been.
probably never gonna grow again. So I have to, spread out because I already got that niche market. Now I can move on to another niche market or find people that are puppet adjacent.
Puppet adjacent. Well, it makes me think of my little brother. I mean, he's not so little anymore. He's 27 or whatever he is now. But my little brother's a as you know, a like prodigal musician. I mean, he is proficient on, oh God, 20, 25 instruments. I don't know how many he can play. He's a musician who is truly, I mean, he's a like a middle school band director. So he literally can play basically every instrument in a band and a bunch of the ones in an orchestra, even though he doesn't teach orchestra. But he has a principal instrument, which is bass guitar. He is a bass guitarist as his principal instrument, even though he is capable of playing proficiently on many, many instruments. And I think, to one, that's partly what you're talking about. Puppets will always be your principle of a maker channel. But yeah, and I also think even though I'm working with smaller numbers than you, I've I didn't niche down as much as I could have. And what's interesting with my channel is that it hasn't grown as much as yours has. We kind of started at the same time. So you've gone up a lot higher in the same amount of time. But within the perfectly respectable 15,000 people that I have on my channel, which I'm quite happy with, if I upload a video where I'm discussing philosophy, and then I upload a video next week where I'm playing guitar, and then the next week I upload a video where I'm talking about magic, and then the next week I upload a video where I'm talking about professional development, they all get about the same amount of views. None of them do better. And that is because I've built my niche has just been my personality. Right from the beginning, I built my channel, my audience on I, me, Brian Miller, I like and enjoy and play in all these different arenas. And that my channel has an expression of all those different things I find interesting. And I really thought over time that there would be one standout. If you ignore the gear tutorials, gear tutorials are always going to get an astronomical amount of views from people randomly searching on Google. Ignore that. All the other creative stuff get about the same views because it's just the core amount of people that enjoy what I do will watch almost anything I do.
And when you grow slowly, I think you get a better quality of subscribers too, because they're coming and subscribing not because of some trending topic or something that just went viral. It's because they've bought into you.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of audience that you want, and just, for a gross comparison, PewDiePie puts out a video, it only gets like 5 million views, and I say only because he has over 100 million subscribers. Okay, so clearly, even, I mean, no one is ever gonna no one's gonna consistently hit their full audience every single time, but I can say with confidence that I generally get a larger proportion than PewDiePie does of my audience watching my stuff,
And that should always
which
be
means
true.
nothing.
No, 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 but it does though. It does because it that should always be true. And I this was interesting. I've forgotten about this until you just said that a couple weeks ago on LinkedIn, where I spend most of my time on social media, which is, obviously you and I differ there. I'm mostly on a professional audience there. Somebody posted, I forget exactly what they said, but they said something to the effect of, why is it that all of the people with the biggest audiences, the people on LinkedIn with hundreds of thousands or millions of followers post the most generic stuff? Why do they all post the most generic, just like, you can make today better than yesterday? Why do they all post that kind of stuff? And I commented, because to me it was no brainer, because the larger your audience is, the more people you have, the you can't be really specific in your messaging when you have 100,000 or a million people, because you're not going to get that message to everybody. The more people that you're reaching, the more generic you have to make your message for the most amount of people to enjoy it, right? Like, if you're
Yeah.
trying to make something that everybody likes, it has to be something that everybody likes. And the stuff that everybody likes is average. It's normal because there's nothing really exceptional that everybody likes.
No, no, that's absolutely right. And the hard thing is just making sure that other people see the value in that as well. Because one thing I remember talking to you about was a pitch I did to a company about doing a sponsorship. And I messaged them and we had a back and forth, which was nice. And they decided that their policy was, which wasn't public, was otherwise I wouldn't have reached out to them, is that they'll only even consider a sponsorship if the person has 100,000 subscribers. I was
It's a
just like, "Oh
mistake.
my gosh." I'm like, "Do
It's
you
a
know what I
mistake.
do?" Do you it really is a mistake because, because especially, I mean, it just shows how little that they know about it because you can buy that many subscribers, not you could do that very easily. And it doesn't mean, I mean, you really got I told them, I said, yes, I am at about half that now. But if you look at my comments, look at my interaction, look at my Facebook group that I've grown of these people. Okay. And the thing about makers is a lot of times they like to use the same tools that the person is using in the video. I know I do it.
Yeah. No,
I think based on recommendation.
I I think that's a huge mistake. You know, that's just it's bad business because that is somebody who is only looking at quantity and quantity has just never. And this is the same mistake that advertisers make when we're on a really different topic now, but this
There
is
we
the
go.
same mistake that advertisers make when they buy a Super Bowl commercial, thinking
Yeah.
it's going to reach hundreds of millions of people, therefore it'll be worth the $10 million per 30 seconds that we spent or whatever it is. No, no, your money would be better spent if you had a room full of 1,000 people that you knew exactly who each one of those people were,
Yeah.
what they had bought, and what they were planning on buying, and what their budget is. And for you, you know exactly who your audience is. Like the reason that I've had such a long-standing relationship with a particular, I won't name them on this channel, but with a particular audio microphone company, and we've done collaborations and sponsorships and all kinds of things, is because I've spent years making tutorials and doing gear reviews on exactly the type of microphones that they sell, and I can look at my analytics and show that there's, X amount per year of people from my audience have directly gone and bought that type of microphone at that type of price. So
Yeah.
I only have 15,000 people, but I know exactly how many of them have the budget and are in the market for exactly what this one company sells. And so they don't care that I don't have 500,000 subscribers because they know that they're going to get a return on their investment with me because they know I know who my audience is.
And not only that too, because I actually emailed them back too and gave them more reason that I thought was really good too. I was like, guess what? All brands want to work with a bigger, influencer. But here's the thing though: if you go with a smaller influencer as a business, it shows that you appreciate the work that they are doing rather than just the following that they have, which the audience notices. They're like, "Wow, look, they're sponsoring this smaller channel. They must really think that this person's doing quality work, and I like this guy's work too. This must be a good company because it shows authenticity, which we talked about
Yeah.
last time, kind of."
Yeah. We are way off topic and over time. But I feel like I don't I don't know if we achieved our goal in this particular episode. I think it's the first time since the very beginning of this of starting this podcast that I'm not sure we really tackled the issue as well as we could
You know what?
have.
I think we did, but I just think that there's just so many facets to that kind of a question. Like most questions, this should be like a 3-hour podcast on that topic because I think it
Yeah.
does have to start with, in my opinion, like how we immediately got off track talking about how it should be something that they're passionate about. But
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you're right.
I I I would like to revisit this at some point because is there value in spending a good amount of time, spending years being a generalist in just kind of going off and being a little scattered and going, "Oh, I like this thing. Let me explore that for 3 months." And, "Oh, now I like this thing. Let me explore that for 3 months." Because doesn't then eventually, after a couple of years of doing that, then you know enough about a whole bunch of different areas. And now when you're starting to niche down, when you're starting to get specific and really pursuing success intentionally, you're able to solve problems, I think, better if you've spent years being a generalist, because you can see stuff that people who've only ever done one thing can't see, right? You, as a puppet builder, if I came to you with a problem in my speaking business, there's a chance that you would go, when I'm building a puppet, X, Y, and Z happens, and sometimes blah blah blah, I do this. Which if I went to another speaker, or if I was trying to figure it out on my own, they'd never be able to see it from that point of view. And I think that's what I was curious about exploring here, which I'm
Mm,
not sure we did at all.
yeah. Well, anyway, I'd still be interested to hear a lot of what people in the comments might think about this from two perspectives. What is their opinion on niching down, and whether they think there's value to that, and what they thought of this conversation, if they think it accomplished anything on that topic.
And really the biggest question before we go is, to beard or not to beard? I need to know. Tell me in the comments. I need to know like by tomorrow.
And if you want to see me cut my own hair, that'll be happening this week.
Oh my goodness. I want
All
to
the
see that.
socials.
I
All
won't I
the
won't
socials.
be cutting my own hair, but mine is going to get out of control by the end of this quarantine, because we're just gonna go we're gonna go all 80s hair metal again. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. All right.
Well,
Well,
without
I
any
don't know
further
what we did
ado,
here today.
on to the next
On
project.
to the next project.